So some of the work we've been doing now more recently, which has really resulted in some really surprising findings, things that we would never have predicted. So we now have this global system for measuring the Earth's magnetic fields. So we have sites around the world. There's one here on this location, and we have one in Canada, Lithuania, Saudi Arabia, South Africa, New Zealand, and next one is I think it looks like it'll be in Colombia, the country of Colombia. So we now have the only synchronized global system for really designed to monitor these resonant frequencies in the Earth. So the studies that we're doing now, have been doing for the last few years, are putting devices on people that measure their heart rate variability, their heart rhythms. So these are lightweight little recorders that you wear for 24 hours a day, right? But there are people wearing them for months at a time. And one study we just had published in one of the Nature journals, a group wore them not every day, but I think 4 days a week, every week for 5 months. So, and then other groups we've had wearing them for a month at a time, and so on. And that was originally to look at the changes in our nervous system. And I should state here that heart rate variability, when we're measuring it like this, reflects the activity in our nervous system. That's what it's a measure of. So we have this beautiful measure of the activity in our nervous system, kind of non-invasively, as people go about their day and night over long time periods. So that allows us to look at changes in the field environment, whether it's the magnetic fields of the Earth, the resonant frequencies and the power in them and so on, and also solar activity and so on, and cosmic rays and so on, and how that affects our nervous system. So that was the intent of these studies, was to really look at that, and there's actually a lot of very significant findings there. We're more affected by the field environment that we live in than I would ever have thought or predicted. But that wasn't the surprise, came when we started synchronizing the heart rate variability data from people in these groups. And the big surprise came from the first time we did this. And this was a small group, 10 people, kind of a pilot study. But these 10 people are spread across the state of California. Some are in the southern part of the state, some in the northern, some central. They're not sitting around in a room together holding hands for 30 days, meditating or something. They're going about their normal lives. Don't even know each other in some cases. So when we averaged their data together, just the beat-to-beat change in heart rate, okay, over a 30-day period, what we expected, just kind of did it to see what would happen, a noisy flat line, just all averaged out to nothing. It's not what happened. We were shocked when we found that there was what we call slow wave rhythm in their hearts that were synchronized. So these people spread hundreds of miles apart. Somehow their heart rhythms were synchronizing together in this slow wave dynamic, as we call it. So a couple important findings here. First of all, the slow wave dynamic and heart rate variability. It was a new finding, but the fact that it was synchronizing, jaw-dropping. We almost couldn't believe it, and spent a while trying to make it go away. Couldn't. It's a real thing. So then the next step in that unfoldment was, our own hypothesis was kind of silly. If I'm really honest, kind of silly. I didn't notice it, instantly recognize this, but it took a week or so. The only reason that could really explain this, that makes sense, is people's heart rhythms are in sync because they're all in sync to a common field that they're all being exposed to. What is that across the entire state of California? Well, obviously it's the magnetic field that we're all embedded in. Sure enough, when we look at the power of the resonant frequencies that I discussed earlier, the field line resonances, especially in the Schumann resonances, the stronger the power, the vibration of the resonant frequency, the more in sync we are. Right? So the group was synchronizing to the field. That's why they were synchronizing together. But again, through resonance, we now can share energy and information across that potentially. So that was a pretty profound insight, if you will, that this could happen at this level. So we then were fortunate to get some funding to do a much larger study. So now we did groups of 20 people in each group in 5 countries, all around the world. Saudi Arabia, Lithuania, here in California, New Zealand, and a group in the UK. And to see if we could repeat this and show it globally, not just in one state. And we're still trying to publish some of those findings now. But I can tell you, kind of some early findings here that this is indeed a global phenomenon. Our heart rhythms are synchronizing globally, even though they're in radically different time zones, 10 hours apart, 10, 11 hours apart in some cases. But it's just slow wave synchronization because we're synchronizing to the Earth's fields. Now there's more subtlety to this and more detail that probably wouldn't be appropriate to go into, but that's certainly all being published in scientific publications now. So one of the things that's emerged, there's a number of findings emerging out of this much larger study, with the groups around the world, where we had the groups where we also have local magnetic field monitoring stations. So we're able to look at the local fields versus the group, right? And sure enough, the local fields are different, and it's important. It used to be kind of thought if you measure the global field one place, it's the same everywhere. We now know that's nonsense. Important local differences, even though there can be some global correlations and similarities. But out of the larger group, another surprise emerged, because when you look over the whole study period, there are basically 3 subgroups that emerge, types of synchronization. So you've got one group, and these are people pulled from all around the planet, not necessarily the group in the UK, and then if you look at the whole over 100 people in the study, one group is what we call positively correlated to the resonant frequencies in the magnetic field. Means as the magnetic field power goes up, their heart rate variability goes up, and so on, up and down together. But they're still synchronized together as a group, and in that same way to changes in the magnetic field. Another group, about equal size, has exactly the opposite response. They're synchronized together as a group, but are what we call negatively correlated. Negative and positive, not good or bad in this case. It's just the way they respond to the signal. So in that case, resonant frequency and the power goes up, their HRV goes down. Okay? So again, it's not saying one's better or worse than the other, just 2 distinct groups of the way that people are responding to the bigger magnetic field. So we had much more people to see this. Then there's the third group. And the third group, smaller group, isn't synchronizing to anything. Each other or the Earth. Now, we don't yet know why you would be in which group or the other, but I would hypothesize, I'll suggest and create a hypothesis here until we study this, that the group that isn't in sync is not the group you want to be in. So from multiple studies now, I've just shared a few here, but it's starting to become pretty clear, actually, that we literally absorb energy, that there's an energy influx from these energetic environmental factors, the magnetic field of the Earth, some of the radio frequency waves from the sun, cosmic rays, those are energy influxes that we use as energy, right? So when we're out of sync with that, we're really cutting ourselves off from an important source of energy. Now, there's actually very real research to support what I'm saying here. This isn't just something I'm making up. And the other thing I suspect that we'll find in the group who's out of sync is that they're out of sync with the field environment, that shared global information field. So these are probably people who are, haven't proven this yet, but I hypothesis they're out of sync with humanity. Right? They're really kind of into their own thing, ambitious and kind of socially disconnected, both from the norms and, well, maybe not norms, but at least the energetic level of the planet and each other. How we look at that next level of why you would be in one group or the other, there are some hints already, but so we do have some thoughts on how we would look into that, but it'll have to really look into it, look at a lot of different things, genetics, but especially backgrounds, but we already are seeing pretty strong indications that our psychological state helps determine which of those groups that you're in. And it kind of makes sense. If we're really emotionally upset, we can be out of sync with ourselves, but also with the Earth. But that would be more of an acute or a transient thing, like maybe a few days, where the studies I'm talking about, we're looking over long time periods now. So some of the other studies as well, when we drill down and look day to day, we can be correlated positively one day and negatively another day, and one day really in sync with the Earth and out of sync another day. So the other study I was talking about was looking at the overall over a longer time period. So there's kind of an overall pattern, but also individual variability within that. And really one of the most, in fact, the publication, scientific publication I'm working on right now, to me is one of the most important out of all of this. So in the 5 groups around the planet, that study I was talking about, we organized in the middle of that study where all of the groups would do what's called a heart lock-in for 15 minutes at the same time. So across all the time zones we arranged, and we had a kind of a Skype connection of all the groups together and kind of made a fun thing out of it. And while we're recording their heart rate variability data and so on. And again, a totally unexpected finding. So we certainly expected the groups would be more synchronized within their subgroups with each other because they're in coherent states of the local effects. But the results are in now. It, again, is totally surprising. That one 15-minute heart lock-in, really being in a heart coherent state for 15 minutes, created a complete change in the group's synchronization to the Earth's field. So they all of the groups, everybody became positively correlated, positively connected for that entire day from this one 15-minute exercise. So we already know now that we can do very simple things, like a heart lock-in for even just a few minutes, that significantly impacts our synchronization with the Earth itself. Right? And that has at least a 24-hour, but the data is actually showing probably up to a 3-day effect just from that one thing of really getting deeply coherent and in sync. Now we're also looking, some of the initial analysis is in, so we looked at how in sync are we with the Earth, but we're also looking how in sync were the groups with the people within the groups with each other. And the same thing, after the lock-in, during the heart lock-in period, they were significantly more in sync with each other, right? Even though they're not physically touching. And even after they left, off going about their own things after this 15-minute period, that heart synchronization between the people in the groups, and this is all the groups that we looked at, all 5, actually continued. So there was this carryover effect. And once we connected in the heart, in this coherent state, it increased our synchronization with Earth and with each other, and it had a carryover effect where we stayed in sync with each other, energetically speaking, for a longer, even after we left and went to the room and went on about our business. So there's a literal energetic connection that's going on there that's not fully proven and understood yet. Well, it's proven that it happens, right? And for me, a reasonable hypothesis it is because we're all connected to the same field environment that I've been talking about.